stop building to be a global product. Just focus on building a product that you can get your first sale. And let's start small and then grow it over time. And so just changing some of the processes and the ways of working and the ways of thinking was fascinating to me. And what happened is, over time, I think EIRs help change the psychology. So my background's in psychology, so everything I do is really focused on startup psychology. Inspiration. Inspiration is the key. You cannot self-inspire. I can't inspire myself. I have to seek inspiration. And inspiration gives you hope. And I'm tired of people saying hope is not a strategy. Everything in my career says the exact opposite. Hope is the strategy. I do hope exercises all the time. I hope my customer loves this. I hope we're building the right thing. I hope. I have two brothers. I have an older brother and a younger brother, so I'm the middle kid. Both my parents are still alive to this day and been married to one another forever, over 50 years. So growing up, we had a very tight family structure. We always ate together. My mom was a stay-at-home mom until we were teenagers. And dinner time was kind of probably the one time that wasn't chaos, because we were all kind of together and sitting. And this is a lot of fun looking back on that time. We didn't have a lot. We weren't poor, but we definitely struggled. But I had a set of amazing parents that, with each of my brothers, were all three vastly different. And what's cool is I've worked with both my brothers, and all three of us have worked together in startups. And it just really instilled quite a bit of family into us, and to take care of one another. I can't imagine going through my life without my brothers. And we faced massive difficulties and tragedies at an early age. We had a sister who died of SIDS, which, when that happens, sudden infant death syndrome, when that happens, normally families break apart. The opposite happened with us. My parents pulled really close together to each other, and really pulled my brothers and I even closer into probably what a normal family might have experienced. And I think that set the groundwork for who I would become. Having that really strong base to build on. At the time, if you fast forward, and I'm 17, 18, I rebelled against it because my family was so close, it was almost smothering. And so that's when I joined the Army and left. Looking back, man, I sure am blessed and grateful that I had that experience.
Well, that's fantastic. Yeah, I've had loss in my family too, and unfortunately, the opposite happened with me, where we kind of did break up. But that's good to hear that you were brought closer together. You mentioned that you've worked with all three of your brothers, or the other two brothers.
Yeah.
To what capacity? Are they entrepreneurial as well, or were they in the startups that you were working with, or?
Yeah. So. My younger brother and I are 2 years apart, and we've always been very, very close. My older brother is 4 years older than me, so there's a 6-year age span between my older brother and my younger brother. So my older brother is always been entrepreneurial, always been a salesperson, Uber salesperson, very, very, very talented. My younger brother is a background in computer science. In fact, just this month, he's finishing another PhD
multiple
in business management.
That's impressive.
Yeah, so he's a smart guy. I mean, he's very educated and very smart, and I'm in between the two. So I'm the R&D guy, the creative guy, and the marketer. And so it was just natural, I think, when we were in our 30s, kind of to pull together and to build some stuff together. So my younger brother and I have built 15 companies together. My older brother and I have done 3 or 4. And if you look at the really big company I'm known for is SkinIt, stickers to cell phones and laptops, created in 2004. Grew to be worth over 100 million really fast, profitable from day one. I just knocked it out of the park with that company. I came up with the idea, convinced my older and younger brother to join me over the summer of 2004. Everyone thought the idea was stupid. Everyone thought the idea was going to fail. Everyone thought it was a loser out of the gates. But somehow I convinced my brothers to believe in it. We launched it on November 11th, 2004. Crashed our web servers with traffic and orders. Wouldn't get caught up until the following spring. It was just the perfectly executed company. And I'm just so blessed I got to do it with both my brothers. And we all got to go on that ride together. And we all add value to the company together. That was just an amazing experience. And I hear the horror stories of people working with family. And I have those as well. I mean, it hasn't always gone cleanly with my brothers. But man, I'm sure grateful for the times I did have that were good with them, in building companies.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And you said that you were the one that came up with the inspiration for SkinIt. Where did you see a gap in the market, or where did the inspiration come from?
Yeah, so SkinIt, I teach a lot on building startups. So I know a lot about building companies, and especially ideation. So like now I advise big companies on how to think and act more entrepreneurial. And so my skill set's in ideation and discovering ideas. And in the late winter, spring of 2004, I had a company called InReach that was building the first app stores in existence, so mobile content space, ringtones, graphics, and games for phones, and was building them for brands like Harley Davidson, Maxim Magazine. So it was privatized content stores for mobile phones. And the idea came about because I was visiting with Nokia, and the meeting right before mine was all kinds of executives of the U.S. and Nokia. And I could tell when everyone was walking out of the meeting and I was walking into the meeting, some of the people I was meeting with were in the previous meeting, there was a lot of stress. And I always tell people, just pay attention to stress, pay attention to friction, pay attention when people are upset, because there's usually a problem to be solved there. And so I asked the team at Nokia, I was like, hey, what's going on? You guys seem really upset. And they said, have you seen these mall kiosks, these kiosks in malls popping up selling faceplates for Nokia phones from China? And I go, yeah. And they go, well, our intellectual property is being knocked off, and people are replacing their phone cases or the industrial design of our phones with these plastic knockoffs. And I go, yeah, so what's the issue? They go, well, they're using leaded plastic, and all the antennas for our phones are internal. They're inside the device. And so we're having massive problems with degradation of cell signal, and people are blaming us and not the case, the knockoff case that they bought.
Interesting.
And they actually said, they go, we wish there was some way our customers could personalize their phones without changing their shells. And I just filed it away. Thought about that, and I ended up selling InReach to a public company that spring, and decided that SkinIt was going to, what would become SkinIt was the idea I had. I just like, I see a need in the marketplace to make personal devices as individualized as the people who own them, and that was my thesis. Mm-hmm. That at that time, cell phones came in black or silver, very masculine. There was no personalization. There was no upload a photo. There was no colorful cases. There was nothing at that time. And so my idea was, let's take automotive technology, so stickers for cars, and custom cut them to fit on consumer electronic devices. So one of the big devices at the time was the Palm family, with the keyboard, phones. And so I bought a vinyl cutter, desktop vinyl cutter, and I bought contact paper, shelf paper at the grocery store, and created the first skin for my phone. And I knew I was onto something because I was so excited putting that first skin on my phone. I think I had a Nokia 5200 or 6000 series at the time. And I custom cut it and designed the CAD, and I cut it out and stuck it on. I knew I was onto something because it married two things that I love, art and technology. So I was able to make my phone 100% unique in all the world. And I was able to do it with technology. So two loves of my life are art and technology. And I took my phone and I showed it to my brothers, and they thought it was the coolest thing in the world. And so they wanted one. And I just believed more than anything that the world was ready for the trend of personalization. And so I put a company together. And because I had just sold a company to a public firm, VCs would take my meetings. And I went out to the Bay Area to a very well-known VC firm and went to pitch them on SkinIt. And I got about not even 5 minutes into my pitch, and the VC stopped and said, "This is the effing stupidest idea I think I've ever heard." And there are these moments in my life that I take these mental pictures, and I still have the picture perfect in my head. It was of him across the conference table with me, telling me how stupid my idea was. And he had a Nalgene water bottle and his laptop, and both of them were covered in stickers.
Oh, wow.
And it dawned on me in that moment, there are people in this world, even venture capitalists who you think would be really good at pattern recognition, who can't see an obvious future, even though it's right in front of them. His laptop and his water bottle were personalized with all the startups he invested in. It was unique to him. It was his identity. His personal identity was now on his devices. And he couldn't see the opportunity. So fast forward a couple of years, when we sold SkinIt, I sent him the press release. Kind of a petty little thing to do, but it was nonetheless very, very fun to do. And so that was kind of the atmosphere around SkinIt. And my younger brother came in early on to build out the technology with me, the platform. We built one of the first photo uploaders in existence. Older brother came in, handled sales in biz dev, and I really focused in on the product. How do we create a product that delights and entertains a consumer, but do it at scale? And so how do we scale this out? And we had to face that really, really fast. On November 11th, we Engadget and Gizmodo both wrote articles about SkinIt, linked it out, and we were just inundated, to say the least, with orders, to the point where it crashed our website and couldn't take any orders. And that was such an amazingly awesome experience, but also one of the scariest moments I've ever had as an entrepreneur. Be careful what you ask for. And it was funny. I don't know if you remember, there used to be a UPS commercial where there's 4 or 5 people standing around somebody working on a computer. And the commercial was about, when the orders come in, are you going to be ready? That was the name of the commercial. Okay. And it starts dinging, dinging, dinging. And the commercial was all about UPS is your partner to help you grow. Well, we lived that real commercial to the extreme. At least on the commercial, they were able to scale. We were unable to scale. And I have some amazing stories about the months after that, about fake it till you make it, and how do you grow into success, and how do you step in to build something that delights your consumers. And SkinIt was just this amazingly awesome PhD level education I got on how to build an amazing product that consumers just love.
So were you guys, it sounds like you were handling everything. I mean, obviously you were handling the client acquisitions. You probably had to go to the Nokias and all of that, get the IDs for all their phones, so you knew what size to make these stickers. Were you manufacturing the stickers yourselves as well in-house?
Yes.
Were you outsourcing all that, or?
No, everything was 100% in-house, including our servers. So we were at a colo facility, so there was no Amazon Web Services at the time. So there was no rack space at the time. So we were in a facility, I believe, called Inflow, and we had bare metal. So my younger brother would buy servers, configure them all up, put them in the co-host facility, and they'd give you a cable, you plug it in, you would have bandwidth. Everything else was up to us. So my younger brother handled that piece, the networking piece. We worked together on the website and designing the e-commerce system. So I know how to code. I'm a designer. So I know that skill set very, very well. And then I bled over into the marketing with my older brother. And how do we get the message out there? And how do we do customer acquisition? And who are the partners we need to partner with? And then Tom took over and then focused on sales. In the middle, I was in charge of the product as well, which was the manufacturing, shipping, logistics, and customer service. And we had to build it all from scratch. There was no SaaS platforms at the time. It was really hard. And we didn't have funding. So this was just funded out of my brother's and I's pocket at the time, which I think is brilliant. I mean, I'm so grateful I didn't raise capital, structured venture capital. We brought some angels in early on, some of the people who had been in previous deals with us. So that was fun because they gave us a ton of advice and sounding boards. But the hardest part on those early days is when we launched the website on November 11th, I was thinking that I could do the 80-20 rule, that 80% of our orders will come from 20% of the devices listed on the website. So I went out and I looked at all the carriers, all the game consoles, and consumer electronics is a broad category. So I was looking at all the things that are personal consumer electronics. And I listed them all on the website. And we had a ton of stock photography and stock designs and some custom designs we did. We didn't have any licenses yet. It's like Disney, Marvel, NFL. We hadn't acquired that stuff yet. So this is just generic designs, royalty-free designs. And in typical fake it till you make it entrepreneurial style, I listed hundreds of devices on the website.
Wow.
And I guess that these 20 to 30 devices were the most popular, so I was going to build this out. So certain Nokia phones, Palm Pilots, the Game Boy. So I had CADs created for those. And we didn't have a relationship with all the hardware guys yet. So these are just devices that I had or my brothers had, or I borrowed from other people to CAD them, and I needed them for about 2 hours per device to create the vector that cuts it out in the vinyl. So we launched on November 11th, and the 80-20 rule did not happen because personalization transcends rules of thumb. And we had hundreds upon hundreds of orders evenly spread across every device I had on the site.
Oh, wow.
So luckily the servers crashed, and I laid out all the orders by device and realized that we had made a huge mistake. I had made a huge mistake, that we didn't have the CADs to deliver on the promise that we had made. So I emailed everyone and just said, hey, sorry, we don't have this done, but if you hang with us, we're going to solve this problem really, really fast, and I'm going to get you your skin really, really quick. And I would say 90-some high 90 percentile. Everyone said, yeah, we love it. We've never seen something like this. We're willing to wait. So I took my American Express, and every day I would go out to the retail. I lived in Golden, Colorado at the time. I would go to all the retailers. Circuit City was in business at the time, Best Buy, the carrier stores, Office Depot, Office Max, Walmart, Target. And I had a list of all the devices, and I had quantities next to them. So I was going by the most requested down to the least requested. I would buy the devices, I would take them home, and I had a whole kit to surgically take the packaging apart. The security stickers on them, the plastic clamshells, and I would dissect the packaging, take the devices out, scan them, CAD them, test one sticker on them, reassemble everything, super glue the plastic clamshells back together, and heat up the stickers to restick them. I mean, I had it down pat, and then I would return them the next day.
Yeah.
I did that for about 4 to 5 days. And then all of a sudden, I was being confronted by the store managers at all these locations. American Express, I guess, had reached out to them with a fraud warning, and everyone was trying to figure out the fraud I was perpetrating. And I wasn't committing a fraud. I was just leveraging the return policies to the extreme. It wasn't fraud because I read the return policies. But what happened is I got banned from my hometown, all the consumer electronic retailers in my home. Luckily by then I had caught up on devices, and I had formed relationships at the store level with T-Mobile, Sprint, Verizon, AT&T. And the store managers would let me borrow phones overnight and then bring them back in. And I would bring them back in with a ton of free skins. And it was a great marketing, because then they would all have skins on the devices, and then they would recommend it.
That's brilliant.
And that led to introductions to every major carrier. And we actually built private label infrastructure for every major carrier to sell skins to their customers with their branding.
Yeah, that is absolutely, no, that's absolutely brilliant. And obviously with that foundation, you know, you've taken those learnings and those experiences and have transformed them into something that actually I've never really heard of. I'm going to say that you refer to it as EIR'ing, which again, I've never heard that term before. So if you could maybe just take a second to explain what exactly EIR'ing is.
Yeah, so EIR is an acronym, stands for Entrepreneur in Residence. And an entrepreneur in residence historically has either been in an academic environment, so attached to a school, or in a venture capital firm. And when an entrepreneur in residence is someone that, in a venture capital capacity, was an entrepreneur that was previously invested by the firm who sold their company. And the VC firm sees value in the skill sets that the EIR has and doesn't want to lose that. So they put them on staff for a bit. And what the EIR does is look at all the deal flow through the entrepreneurial oculus and kind of helps with due diligence until an idea comes across that they're super interested in. And it might be someone coming through that maybe doesn't have the leadership skills necessary to run the company, the idea or to lead the company they're creating, or they see pattern match something in the market and they see an opportunity. And so they're kind of a pre-vetted talent pool. Since I've never really raised traditional venture capital before, I would never be an EIR in a venture capital firm. And so I decided to adapt this idea of an entrepreneur for hire for corporations. Because what I was seeing is most unicorns that are being created are created in the startup world and not in the corporate world. Most new products that are launching that are creating strong affinities with consumers are coming from the startup world and not the corporate world. And I'm fascinated by that because they have access to the same tools I have. In fact, they have more talent, more time, and more treasure. I always call that the 3 T's: time, talent, and treasure. And so they know lean. I know a ton of innovation consultants are teaching lean, or they're teaching design thinking, or corporations have the training, they have everything, but for whatever reason, they're not able to innovate at the pace and with the quality the startups can do. And so I tried a grand experiment where I reached out. I was actually asked to come in and started EIR'ing for a security company, building the next generation of ankle monitors to track felons. And so a really structured, traditional corporate environment. And they asked me to come in to help them move at pace, move faster, and to operate cheaper, and to challenge the assumptions and processes they have through an entrepreneurial mindset. And it worked. It worked out really well. And so I then went and was asked to do it for Molson Coors, big global beer brand. And it worked there. And so I'm working on a book right now that kind of covers what an EIR in a corporate environment does. But it really is this idea of a serial successful Gen Xer like me. What do they do on their next act when they don't want to go build another company? They can add value inside of a corporate environment by helping those teams think and act more entrepreneurial. And really challenge a lot of these processes that have outlived their value, and really help corporate innovation teams especially truly understand the entrepreneur's mind, and not through just lectures, or not just through and guest speaking, but really working hand in hand next to me, or someone like me. It really unlocks powerful learnings for corporations.
So you mentioned twice there that you were asked to come to these different companies. Can you talk a little bit about how you created that, how that happened? Obviously one of the biggest challenges that most entrepreneurs have is, how do we get into these other companies? It kind of seems like you were able to make that leap pretty easily, where again, these people are approaching you for your services. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I've been blessed that early on in my career, my very first companies I created, I learned to build white label technology infrastructure. So I never really cared about my brand to the end consumer. My customer was usually like a T-Mobile, or like with original apps, SkinIt for cars that I created. It was like Ford or Mini Cooper. And how could I build infrastructure that then they take to their customer? So in my career, I've worked with probably over 100 large companies, innovation teams, by providing them my product, white label, where they're taking it to their customer. So I have a lot of experience working with big companies. And during that time at InReach, SkinIt, and Original Apps, the big three that I built that were working with big companies, it was always immensely painful for both of us and the company, to work together, because we would be moving at the pace of a startup and they were moving at the pace of a company. And so I learned, unbeknownst that it was a valuable skill that I'd be able to exploit later, how to kind of help them speed things up, how to make decisions faster, how to operate more entrepreneurial. So fast forward to when I stopped building companies and became a consultant or an advisor, an EIR. The lexicon I use with potential customers is corporate and not entrepreneurial. And it helps that I have a lot of success to point back to. So I can point back and say, hey, this is the difference we made at BMW. Take a look at the technology we made for Volkswagen. Take a look at what we did for T-Mobile.
And so, real quick on that point, quick, if you had a lot of experience dealing with smaller companies and you were making a leap to a larger company, do you feel that would have the same impact in that sense, or would you say that it would need to be sort of on the same level, that same type of scale of company? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So I specialize in Global 1000 brands. And because their problems are really unique. They're global in nature, and so the scale of the innovations they're creating are usually global in scope, and that just leads to a plethora of bad decisions.
Mm-hmm.
So if you think of a startup, you're usually launching small. You're probably going to adopt some lean design thinking methodologies to help. So you're going to attach your idea to a framework and kind of run it through that process. It doesn't work at a global scale. And the other thing I found was, for me, the second half of my life, I'm really focused on providing scale. Companies called Inspire, not by chance. The greatest job title I've ever had was Inspire. So I'm trying to do it at scale. So I'm trying to reach as many people as possible, help as many people as possible. So that's kind of why I focus on the Global 1000. There's a personal component, and it's just also my background. Mm-hmm. Can an EIR help a 500-person company? Most definitely. And there's a lot of really qualified entrepreneurs who have been serially successful that can add value just by changing the way companies think about process. One of my favorite stories to talk about is there was a consultant that was brought in to advise GE on building nuclear reactors. And this consultant was talking to GE and the team behind it and trying to figure out why it takes so long. What is all this work that needs to be done to build a nuclear reactor? And the team's like, it's really hard. We can't speed it up. It's next to impossible to speed it up. It's a waste of time. So the consultant asked, hey, why don't you share with me all the processes you go through and just let me take a look at them? And he went through it all, and his report back was the amount that was mandated by the government was immensely small. The majority of the processes were internal processes created by teams historically over time, and a lot of those were outdated. Mm-hmm. But people follow them no matter what, because that's always been done, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you get someone like me into a company that has thick processes, and one of the jobs I had at Molson Coors. So Scott Cooper was my counterpart, the global head of innovation at Molson Coors. And he would ask me, he goes, Mike, I want you to be in this meeting, and I want you to call us out when we're thinking or acting corporately compared to how the startups we're competing against are thinking. And so that's a lot of fun, because they would be talking about, okay, we need to run it through this type of testing queue. I was like, man, startups don't do that. Mm-hmm. Startups, release an MVP, get feedback, release an MVP. They iterate with live customers. You guys are doing focus groups, and you're building for scale versus the first sale. Is one of the things I'm always talking about is stop building to be a global product. Just focus on building a product that you can get your first sale. Mm-hmm. And let's start small and then grow it over time. And so just changing some of the processes and the ways of working and the ways of thinking was fascinating to me. And what happened is, over time, I think EIRs help change the psychology. So my background's in psychology, so everything I do is really focused on startup psychology. Right now, we're in the midst of this awful black swan event globally. And I'm talking a lot with my corporate clients, past clients included, about the psychology of innovation moving forward, and why I think I was very bearish on the startup world 2 months ago. Mm-hmm. I thought corporates were going to step in. You got the tools. They're changing their ways of thinking. They have time, talent, and treasure. All new innovation is really expensive. AI, self-driving cars, robotics, automation. It's just really, really expensive to participate in. And the startup world was going to constrict. I've totally reversed my thinking on that. It's Black Swan event, and now big companies actually have the disadvantage to startups. Mm-hmm. All the patterns of our lives have changed. So I've worked from home my whole life, and now all my friends in the corporate world are working from home, and they're kind of freaking out. how we shop, how we eat, how we communicate. All of these patterns are up in the air and are going to settle back down, but none of them are going to go back to the way they were before. They're going to land slightly askew or be abolished completely. That is going to create a massive number of opportunities. More opportunities. I can't think of one event in human history that has created more opportunity than the Black Swan event we're going through right now. Mm-hmm. Big companies will be unable to respond to all of those opportunities. They just will. They're just not going to be able to do it. They're going to be in self-survival mode. And what we're going to do is have an influx of talent enter the job market. Savvy entrepreneurs, savvy people are going to be able to see how these patterns are settling and be able to take advantage of them and build some amazingly awesome stuff. Fast, cheap, and easy. Mm-hmm. So an example I throw out to people is the idea of leveraging ghost kitchens. So ghost kitchen is a shared kitchen workspace that companies are using today to fill the delivery queues because they don't want people showing up to a nice restaurant to pick up to go, kind of a disruption. So there's this idea of ghost kitchens that have taken off over the next couple of years. I think you're going to see savvy entrepreneurs step in and say, I'm creating a virtual restaurant only. Mm-hmm. There is no physical space for this restaurant. Mm-hmm. We're going to create an amazing unboxing experience. We're going to create an amazing customer experience. We're going to create an amazing order experiences. We're going to create amazing food experiences. And we're going to create food that specifically is built to be delivered. Mm-hmm. And that's going to be our brand. So we're not going to have to invest in space and parking lots and waiters and waitresses and front staff. We're just going to be virtual only. I think you're going to see a ton of those type of businesses launch because the patterns change. Mm-hmm. I think people are going to want to get together, but I think people are going to get really used to just having everything delivered and being cool with it. I see a ton of business opportunities around delivery. DoorDash and Grubhub are super expensive if you're a restaurant, super expensive. So I think you're going to see this idea of regionalized or localized delivery co-ops. So picking 20 restaurants, I live in Oceanside, California, so 20 restaurants pull together to have their own fleet of delivery drivers. Mm-hmm. They all chip in pro rata based on the number of orders per that month to have their own fleet of delivery drivers. So not having to give Grubhub or DoorDash an exorbitant amount of money to deliver their product. Across the board, I see just in every industry a ton of new opportunities. And big companies won't be able to respond to it.
No, that's fantastic. I actually just heard of the concept, and I don't know if this is something new, but there's a pizza store just down the road from us, and they're doing take and bakes right now. So basically, it's an uncooked pizza that they make, and you take it home and you bake it, and that's kind of their carry out that they're promoting now. So. Again, I completely agree that there's opportunity in these downturns that you just have to be able to recognize and capitalize on. That's fantastic.
And I think a lot of it is a new psychology we're going to have to uncover. And I'm like right now for the next 2 months, I don't plan to make any money. I just come to accept that my clients aren't going to be able to pay me. Mm-hmm. And that's fine. If they want free services, I'll give them free services. If the world needs my help, I'm more than happy to give it. So follow me on any of my social platforms, LinkedIn, Facebook, wherever. I'm giving all my content away for free because that's what you do in Black Swan Awards. That's what someone like me does in Black Swan Awards. Just give it away. And my corporate clients, they're radically frazzled. Because they have to deal with so many other issues and protect so many other things, especially shareholder value, that the concept of innovation to them has radically changed. And so there's going to be a ton of gaps in the marketplace for savvy people to step in with low cost, low amounts of money, small amounts of time to be able to make a big impact and make a living. But it involves a certain psychology that has to change. This is what I teach now quite a bit of this startup psychology. And I really want to share this because I think this is the big takeaway that I'm giving everyone over the next month is inspiration. Inspiration is the key. You cannot self-inspire. I can't inspire myself. I have to seek inspiration. And inspiration gives you hope. And I'm tired of people saying hope is not a strategy. Everything in my career says the exact opposite. Hope is the strategy. I do hope exercises all the time. I hope my customer loves this. I hope we're building the right thing. I hope. And hope informs courage. So when you have hope, it gives you courage. You can't have courage without hope, period. And so courage replaces fear. So my psychology background, I've done a ton of studying on the parts of the brain that feel fear and the parts of the brain that feels courage, and they're very similar and share. So I believe that when you have courage, your level of fear drops. And so the more courage you have, the more you'll act. So right now there's a complete paralysis with everyone. And this is what a lot of new entrepreneurs start to experience when they run into their first hurdle or the first suddenly they get too many orders and the web servers crash. The first crisis. They feel this hopelessness. If you're feeling hopeless, seek out inspiration. Inspiration will give you hope. Hope will give you courage. And you'll step into the mindset that makes amazing things happen. This is what I teach my corporate clients. There's a lot of the issues in the corporate environment where people have a thing called learned helplessness. They've just learned to be helpless. They believe that no matter what they do, it's not going to make any difference. When a group of people in a corporate environment feel that way, it leads to learned hopelessness. No matter what we do as a company, it's not going to make any difference. The minute you're hopeless, you have no courage. And if you don't have courage, you don't act in the ways that the consumer needs you to act to deliver on the promise of what they want. So it sounds really hokey sometimes, but it actually works. Seek out inspiration. Stop reading the news. News is in the fear business, not in the hope business.
I completely agree. I love that. You mentioned a little while ago that you were coming out with a book very, very soon.
Yeah.
Are any of these techniques covered in the book by chance? Do you talk too much about any of that?
Yeah, I just had a meeting this morning about my book. The book is an EIR manual, so how corporates can leverage an entrepreneur in residence. So I'm refactoring some of my book to deal with black swan events like what we're experiencing. I've mulling around putting that on hold because I think the world might need me to put that on hold. I think the world needs more inspirers and less innovators at the moment. And so I'm kind of in flux. I'm thinking a lot. I'm giving all my startup content away for free because I mean it's valuable and people need it. A lot of people are not going to be able to re-enter the job force in the way they think. That pattern's change, but that doesn't mean they don't have value, and that doesn't mean that there's not other opportunities. And I think my ideation exercises and all that are really, really good for people to go through to figure out what's next. It inspires them, it leads to hope, leads to courage. The world's a better place. And so I think the next chapter of my life, this next season I'm going into, deals more with Mike the Inspirer versus Mike the Innovator. And it's daunting. I'm not going to lie, it's a little scary. I own the domain IamNotAfraid.com. And so
fantastic.
I'm thinking more about, how can I just whisper to myself again and again, I'm not afraid, and step into my courage a little bit more.
And what does life look like as the Inspirer? Are you going to start doing speaking events, or what does that look like for you? Are you still consulting to different large companies, or?
Yeah, any company, any, global 1,000 that needs help figuring out what they're going to do next, how they're going to step into, how they're going to take advantage of these patterns settling, and really re-examine who they are and what they stand for and the products they serve and the community they serve. If they really want kind of an entrepreneurial mindset to help them, of course, I will be there for them. So I'll probably split my time up with that. But I think the Inspire, the name of my company is Inspire. And I just, when I flip through Facebook or I'm on LinkedIn quite a bit, and I just feel the massive unease in the world. I mean, people are suffering. And I know a ton about suffering, way more than I probably should. And I think I can help. I'm super optimistic, super upbeat. Is it a scary time? Sure. But courage is something I know a lot about. And so to answer your question, I don't know. Follow me on social, and when I figure it out, I'll share it with everyone. But I think that just that one that one saying I have, inspiration leads to hope, hope leads to courage, courage replaces fear. It's kind of this mantra I keep on repeating again and again and again, and I think it's important.
No, that's great. That's great. So last two questions, and then we can wrap this up. You mentioned before that you had some resources that people could check out. Where would they find them at?
I'm posting everything on LinkedIn because, and I'm also posting them on Facebook. So you can just search on me on Facebook. I'm posting them on LinkedIn as well, just because I think that's the professional network, and a lot of the stuff's about ideation, innovation. I'm not posting it all at once, but I'm kind of leaking it out. I also have 3 courses that are on Udemy. I've had over 8,000 people take them from around the globe. I turned all those free forever. So if you want to go take one of my startup courses, just search on my name, and you'll see the 3 courses. They're free. Enjoy them. I hope they add value. Let me know if they do. The feedback I'm getting is positive on that. So just follow me on some of the socials, or go to my Udemy courses.
Fantastic. And that kind of answered the last question, is how would you want people to reach out to you?
I'm pretty open, pretty easy to find. And I have a unique last name. So just search on Mike Stemple and you'll find me. I really like it when people ask me questions underneath pieces of content, because everyone then gets the value of my responses, versus sending me an email and then it's kind of isolated. So if you can ask a question and then tag me, or do it in a way that it can be scalable and reach a further group of people, that would be awesome. I love to pontificate. If you're watching my content, nothing is scripted. It is 100%. I went back through and I've been listening to my course material to be able to post some of these videos from my courses. And I cringe a little bit because I'm massively opinionated about stuff. But I'm super entertaining as well. I think people will get a kick out of it.
That's fantastic. Fantastic. No, I appreciate you taking the time to talk about your life's journey. I mean, you really have done quite a bit, and congratulations on all the success. And certainly I'm going to be following you and your next inspirational steps and wherever that may lead. So again, thanks for taking the time to talk to us today.
You bet. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.